Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Throughout both weekends of the Black Ops 6 beta, there was obviously a lot of feedback in response to the movement, the new Omnimovement system where we have complete control over pretty much everything we're doing in game when it comes to movement, forwards, backwards, left, right. We can do it all, right? And with it, one of the big complaints, one of the big pieces of feedback that I saw continuously on social media, on my YouTube comments was, man, this movement feels kind of clunky. And from my gameplay experience, I just couldn't wrap my head around the term clunky being applied to the Black Ops 6 movement, where I felt like I was incredibly free flowing and I was, transitioning, sliding into diving, into, side diving, into proning, trying to break cameras, break aim assist, do whatever. But there was actually some testing done within the beta that does show they made a slight change to the way that movement functions within Black Ops 6 as opposed to something like Modern Warfare 3. And truthfully, I think it's the real reason that there is a lot of clunkiness applied to the Omnimovement system from a player feedback standpoint. So that said, this information is coming from a fellow creator, TCaptainX. I'm gonna have a link to his YouTube and his Twitter down in the comments below. He ended up posting this on Twitter the other night, and he's got a video that we're gonna go through and watch here, but he does a really good job explaining exactly why you might feel clunkiness on Omnimovement. So he says, hey Treyarch, wanted to provide some additional feedback on the movement system in BO6, and for what it's worth, if you're ever wondering how do we get the devs to listen to us, how do we prove to them that something is really weird or wonky that we don't like, this is how. This is a great way to provide feedback. In BO6, there is a significant delay in being able to perform a dive or slide when coming from a standing still position. Whereas in MW3, you can dive and slide pretty much from a standstill in position. In BO6, it requires you to get moving up to a full sprint if you want to do any form of movement, and this leads to an overall feeling of clunkiness and is far from the fluidity that Omnimovement should be providing. And I agree, and I think a lot of you guys will also agree when we go through and we watch this video. I think the main issue here is being able to go from standing still to immediately getting up to your attack sprint speed. Regardless, very excited for BO6, but I hope things like this are addressed by the time the full game releases. And he's got this video here. It's about a 2-minute long video, and it shows us a lot of very important things.
So if I'm standing
still, he's
still
basically going to show here exactly what he just described in the text.
If I'm playing on hybrid right now, so for
you
me,
can see he just walked forward and tried to slide,
hit my
and he crouched, right? Whereas when he's sprinting, he dives.
Quickly do this. If I try to quickly L3 and dive, my guy just stops and crouches.
So that's a huge thing, and I noticed this throughout the weekend as well. Throughout the weekends when I was playing, is there'd be times where I'd get what's known as a dead slide like that, where I'm trying to immediately go from standing still into a sprint into a slide and get a quick slide off to start my movement as I'm relocating or rotating or whatever the case is. And I noticed, at times I would be able to slide just fine. It was probably me getting up to full sprint, as TCaptainX will demonstrate here. There were other times though where I'd get into a gunfight and I would heal up and I'd go to move and I'd get a dead slide, and it's like, oh, okay, that was annoying, that was awkward. I have to get back up to my sprint, I'd get back into it, right? And this is something that occasionally happens in even Modern Warfare 3 or Warzone, right? Where you'll get like a dead slide sometimes. And at times that could just be your controller, the inputs being weird at times. Maybe you pressed a button wrong or too soon and it took both actions at the same time. Whatever the case is, there's reasons for dead slides and this kind of awkward, clunky movement happening already. But here, it seems a lot more deliberate, as TCaptainX will go on to show.
For a moment,
you can see he gets into that slight sprint animation, and then he's able to do it.
You from doing some cool stuff. Whereas, let's say I wanted to quickly maybe dive out to the side here, I can't just.
He tries to dive right,
I have to.
But he just crouches, and it's real awkward.
And dive. And the same thing is true with sliding. So if I
wanted to do it for diving or sliding,
strafe right and slide cancel out,
it makes for a very awkward system.
Momentum, and it's a lot. Like you have to get sprinting for a full maybe half second or so.
And that doesn't sound like a lot. Oh, you have to sprint for a full half second. But in COD gameplay, where we have, by all things, in comparison, a fast TTK, and everything is so high octane, fast paced, you're always in action, that half second can mean a lot, and having to go into a full sprint animation in order to do movement like this means that everything is going to inherently be slowed down a lot more than maybe I think a lot of us would like. And you can definitely tell that's by design, when as soon as you hit that sprint animation, half a second or whatever in, you can then get to that dive, you can then get to that slide. But if you try and do it from basically a straight standstill position, you're not able to.
Before you can do any
You can
input.
see
You're
it's a
gonna see
pretty
it getting all
consistent
these
thing. You
dead
can
slides
replicate
here,
this
and I've noticed
incredibly
this
easy.
has increased a lot, especially into the second week of the beta. Whereas if we jump over to MW3,
And then he compares it in
Warzone, it's a lot
MW3,
easier for to make these quick
and it's night and
movements.
day.
So I barely have to
And as you
move
can see,
forward. I have to basically just press
it's an
L3, and
instantaneous dive, basically.
As long as I'm pressing L3, even if I'm like pretty much standing still, you can get right into a dive. And same with sliding. You can just, I'm playing on auto attack sprint as basically as soon as I press forward.
Wildly different. You can see there was a slight dead slide that he just performed there, but it is night and day different with how instantaneous, you know, snap of a finger you can get into a diving animation or a sliding animation from MW3 as opposed to Black Ops 6, where Black Ops 6 is marketed as, hey, we've got the smoothest movement, the most fluid movement system ever, except actually starting this movement takes a little bit more time than it does in an already very fluid, very smooth movement game here.
Slide. Now there still are dead slides, and I think that is an issue, but the delay from being able to sprint and then do a movement like sliding or diving is a lot less in MW3.
And that issue there, with the slide, the dead slides and the dead dives within MW3, may be more of just like a button input registration thing or something, whereas in Black Ops 6, it's far more of an intentional design for some reason. Don't really know what that reason would be.
And this diving mechanic is really important, especially it will be more in Warzone, is if you're on like a ledge, and let's say I wanted to dive to make it to another ledge or something, it's very easy for me to just sprint and dive. Whereas in Black Ops, you would have to get a running start and then turn and do it. And it's,
which is so accurate. That's going to be a super noticeable thing if they don't end up adjusting this for the full launch of Black Ops 6 and eventually the Warzone integration with Black Ops 6, right? So that is a super convenient way to demonstrate, and a really good way to demonstrate exactly what's going on with this movement clunkiness within Black Ops 6. And again, like I mentioned at the start, I'm not really sure what the design philosophy behind this would be. If they're trying to, you know, make it so that you can't just spam movement and they want that slight delay, okay, well, that's a design, but this game's kind of based around movement. That seems counterintuitive in a way. There's also the whole conversation ongoing about tac sprint versus regular sprint both being in the game for Black Ops 6. There's been a lot of feedback saying, why do we need two different versions of sprint? Just make it so that one sprint, tac sprint ideally, is the default, and that's the only sprint speed, and then you're just walking. I think if maybe there was just a tac sprint and you had like an auto tac sprint setting on, you'd be able to go through and you'd be able to just slide right away or dive right away without this random delayed input thing going on. So huge shout out to T Captain X for going through and really pinpointing this as to what's going on with some of the clunkiness behind BO6 movements. Really good way to go through and visually demonstrate exactly what the issue is. So like I said, I'll leave links to his socials down in the description below if you want to go and check him out. But hopefully we can get more eyes on this and hopefully get a response from the devs in regards to this specific issue, because I think adjusting this would probably solve a lot of that concern with Omnimovement for this year. But that being said, that is going to wrap things up for this video. If you enjoyed it, if you do want to help get more eyes on it by sharing it around, a like rating is the best way to do so. And if you are new to the channel, you want to guarantee that every single day you are up to date with news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns, really all things going on in COD, this is the place to be. So feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, and once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.